That's better. Okay. Welcome back to Bleach Anime Review Part 10. This is about my final thoughts on the anime and what do I think of it basically overall, and if the series ever did come back, what would I think what and these things basically suggest that they do. First, my final thoughts on the anime. The anime itself was really, really good. Um, Never had a problem with the English voice acting at all. I mean, yes, Parrot did reuse actors. So some of the actors were used from other projects, like mainly Naruto and probably a few other projects. But I gotta give high praise to Johnny Young Bosch for doing a great job voicing Ichigo Kurosaki, and of course, um, Derek Stevenson for voicing Uru, Stephanie Stevenson, Stephanie Seth for voicing uh, Orihime. Let's see, who was the guy who voiced Chad? Let me look it up here. Uh, Jameson Pierce, he did a great job voicing the character. Rukia was voiced by Michelle Ruff. Great job she did voicing Rukia, giving her a nice charm to her. Renji, I gotta mention him because, well, because he's in the picture that I'm using, which is actually from the second to last season that was aired for the show, the season where they had the where they had the clones of the Soul Reapers. Mm-hmm. Uh, Wally Rangriff, I had to bring him up. Um, Now, simply put, these people, along with the other voice actors, along with people like Tony Oliver, who is known for basically voicing known for being the substitute voice for the Joker in the Batman Arkham games, who voiced in Batman Arkham Origins and Assault on Arkham. He does a great job. He did a great job voicing Oriki, I think his name is. He was one of the Ronkars from the long-running Ronkar arc, which took up most of the series, starting from season 6 and then wrapping up into season 14, which was the longest season of the whole series. The only season basically that I kind of had a problem with, not, the structure-wise, fine, but who they revealed the main villain was, I was like, really? It's like the season 9, the Captain Sochin, I think the name of the arc, I think it's called. Let me look it up here. It's season 9, I remember that. It is Captain Sosuke Amagai. Yeah, that is the name of that is the name of the filler captain. Yeah, basically when he was revealed to be the main villain of the whole entire season 9, it comes completely out of nowhere. I know people have a problem with the Fullbringer arc, fine. Even rereading the manga, I didn't have. Even I recently just finished reading the manga. I will do a special over my thoughts on the final arc of the series, which was of the manga, which was never adapted. But the Fullbringer arc I thought was actually pretty good. It wasn't as good as the other stuff, but it wasn't, let's say, uh, Kibo's basically best work. But it's an okay arc. It did what it was supposed to do, give Ichigo back his powers, which the arc did succeed in. It took a while. In the manga, it uh, took about 36 chapters for him to get back his powers. In the anime, it took like almost like most of the season just to get back. Let's see. It took until, let's see, 60. It took 17 episodes in the anime it took him basically most of season 16 for him to get his solar powers back and change his look, basically giving him the X tattoos on his chest and his arms, which were fine, and of course leaving bits and pieces of the Fullbringer stuff with him, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. But when I was watching this anime, I was sort of bench watching, just like I did with Naruto. Naruto Shippuden. So I was taking my time with this one because, well, Bleach has been off the air for 5 years, and so I wasn't exactly rushing through it. And I waited until after I finished the anime to start watching the films and the OVAs. The films themselves are great films, and I kind of wish they would have made more films than just making four. And the fourth one came out uh, during the second to last season of the show, which is kind of odd. Yeah, but if the series ever to come back, these are the things that I would love to see them do. First, adapt the final arc. I will talk about that in the anime special, basically, of my feelings about the final arc of the manga. Second, adapt the light novels, which take place during the 10-year jump, which I thought the 10-year jump happened between the second to last chapter and the last chapter. It turns out the epilogue is actually a two-parter, and it takes the last two chapters of the manga, and the final arc wraps up with. It starts with chapter 480 and doesn't wrap up until 684. That's the final arc. That's the final major arc of the series. But we'll talk about that soon. There's a 10-year jump, and there've already been two light novels released so far, and it would be great if they would adapt those. There's one I know of that where it basically is the wedding of Renji and Rukia, which, okay, great. Maybe they can do later on do the wedding of Ichigo and Orihime. It's a possibility, especially since anybody watching the anime, reading the manga, knew Orihime had a thing for Ichigo. And I never felt as though Rukia ever developed a thing for Ichigo at all. It kind of felt as though that the only feelings between Rukia and Ichigo were just friendship and the fact they were just great partners. And the fact that Rukia was kind of pushed toward Renji. I mean, Renji kind of started off as a rival to him, one of two characters started as a rival to him, and later became a good friend to him. Probably even best friends. I wouldn't be surprised though to find out in the light novel for Rukia and Renji's wedding that Ichigo is Renji's best man. I would not be surprised at that. That would be interesting. And Orihime being Rukia's maid of honor. That's just my theory of what the novel is. I have never read it. I think I've never read any light novels of Bleach. I am planning to read it soon because I just finished reading the manga today. Let's see, what else? There are some other things I like to see him do, like aside from adapting the final arc of the manga and of course adapting light novels. Um, another episode when they go to the beach. Though this time I was just doing it different. Like have the Bleach stuff, have them going back to the beach again. Excuse me. Have it happen after they finish up adapting the final arc, and before they start doing the light novels. Just have this one standalone episode where all the soldiers go to the beach, with the exception of the captain of Squad 12, and of course the lieutenant of Squad 2, and go to the beach along with Ichigo's friends, which with his Tatsu, Keigo, and I don't remember the other one's name. Yeah, that, and of course Ichigo's father and sisters all going to the beach, just having fun, and of course having a wake for everybody who died during the final arc of the manga, who died during the previous war with the Iba Quincy's. Yeah, having a wake like at the evening, like everybody having drinks, like all of the adults basically having sake and having, well, pretty much Ichigo and all his friends who are not, who are basically considered underage, have their drink like orange juice or maybe soda. That's just my suggestion to do with it. Is there suggestions I would think they would do? Um, Another idea they could do during the time because you can have episodes set during the time jump, basically develop stuff and answer questions people probably have asked during the final arc of the manga. What happened to certain characters, and maybe show some flashbacks of like what happened to like the Iran cars, like how they survived, like what happened to them after Aizen's defeat, before they were conquered by the villains, before they were conquered by before Wakabusa was conquered by the Iba Quincy's. Yeah, just like show exactly like what happened right after Aizen's defeat. Um, of like who took over, of basically what exactly happened with the movie because there was probably a power vacuum uh, after Aizen's defeat. So I was just dealing with that. Um, Maybe Ichigo just doing more patrolling, uh, and also doing episodes about the relationship between him and Orihime where it actually sort of goes someplace because even in the anime, my guess is they probably didn't have time to, but it was hinted of the tracks between the two of them. I mean, I do think that when Orihime was kidnapped, he was deeply upset about it, and I would not have been surprised if somehow that maybe if there was time that after they finished after the final arc, that they could have just told their developing relationship if they ever did something like that. Another suggestion I suggest they do is a version of the film The Last, which Naruto did, which had in the film basically Naruto and Hinata basically hook up at the end, which is something they're doing in the epilogue, which I haven't got yet in Naruto manga, but yeah. And also what happened with basically certain people, like after the war ended, like what happened with Ichigo's father and everybody else, like what else happened during the 10-year time jump, which there's plenty of story of opportunity to tell. But I mean, I know the light novels are basically the two most recent ones. The first 4 or 5 kind of take place between certain arcs, but the last couple that have come out take place during the 10-year time jump. Just explore what happened during the 10-year time jump. There's plenty of opportunity there, just like how with Naruto, the same thing as well. Is there anything else? They can probably do backstory on certain characters who were never fully fleshed out in the manga or in the anime, like Rukia, like to like a small arc of basically of her early days as a Soul Reaper, her and maybe Toshiro and maybe a few other Soul Reapers. I mean, yeah, the only characters you got a chance to see the early days of, both in the manga and the anime, was Renji and Rukia. That's it. Everybody else you barely got a chance to see anything. Heck, Song Fallen got a chance to see a little bit of her early days as a Soul Reaper prior to her becoming captain. Mainly in that flashback, mainly during that the past arc in season 11, where it takes place 100 years before the present day events. Which even I thought was weird, though, the fact that okay, the beginning of the past arc says that it takes place 110 years prior to present day events. Then why in the world is Sojin listening to jazz? It honestly makes no sense. Either, yeah, I came up with this crazy theory that time moves very slowly in uh, in the Soul Society. That the time span, like for example, 110 years prior to present day events, Byakuya was much more younger than he is currently. Like he looked like that he was, I'd say, late teens, early 20s. Now he looks like he's probably in his mid to late 30s, and he's a widower. Um, Maybe also do something like do like a small arc of how he met his wife and try to show more of that relationship because it sounded quite interesting. The fact that he was married to this woman for 5 years before she died, and the fact that his wife spent years throughout the whole marriage looking for her lost sister Rukia, which they did kind of show that basically of him adopting her, like adopting her to the family, which is great. Um, but I know that one of the Omakes did kind of show Lieutenant Squad 2, his family, and his family is weird. Like even Ichigo called it, it's very bizarre. Where his parents and his two of his siblings are almost exactly like him. He has a cute little sister who looks like she's around like a little bit older than Ichigo's sisters. Yeah, excuse me. Um, some of my favorite moments from the anime, uh, basically like when you have Ichigo and Renji basically learning their showing their Bankai for the first time, or you have that, and also the moment when Ichigo comes out of that during the toward the last section of the Ronka arc, just before he faces up against Aizen, where he comes out after spending like 3 months in the precipice world where he's grown like 3 inches, his hair has grown out super long, and his Zanpakuto's Akisor merged with his arm. I'm like, wow, that is something. And also in the anime, they never actually like Rukia never actually sort of introduced to me. She saw Tatsu and the other people who were friends of Ichigo, but she never actually sort of introduced herself to him at all. Though it's shown in the manga that Suichu, I think his name is, the one who's the captain of Squad A, who later became the head captain after the old man died. Yeah, apparently they knew of him. They never officially met, but they know of him. And in the final arc, they actually did meet. But I will explain more of that in the first special. But this anime was just really good. Um, though the Roncar arc star, some people thought, oh, maybe it was dragged out for too long and he took up most of the series. Here's kind of the thing about the Roncar arc. In the manga, collected-wise, in the volumes, it took up 28 volumes. It was long. Really, really long. There's like several sections of it. You have the beginning stuff with them finding the Roncars in the real world, and then of course the whole thing with Orihime getting kidnapped and going to Mundo, and then right after that the battle in the fake car Town with basically intersected with the Mundo stuff, and then of course you have um, later on you have Ichigo's battle with Ichigo arriving in the real world, and later on battling Aizen in the Soul Society. It's just a really dang good arc. I initially thought that they had when they had the episode when they had most of the female characters from the anime basically go to the beach. I thought that was a filler episode. Turns out it's actually from the manga itself. And the past arc that they had in season 11, that's actually in the manga, it was actually 10 negative chapters. Yeah, it was 10 negative chapters. So, yeah. Um, so yeah, like some of the more like offbeat stuff that you might not think is canon that might have been filler, but no, it's actually canon. Um, but yeah, I can't honestly think of anything else the anime would do or some other thoughts. My favorite moments of it are like from the second Bleach film, like from Diamond Dust Rebellion. We have that scene where Toshiro is basically standing on the Sakaimon, um, and he basically has almost all the Soul Reapers about to basically kill him. And then you hear Ichigo yelling, Gansuga Tensu, and basically slices up the ground. It is by far one of the most jaw-dropping moments of the film. And of course, Ichigo punching Toshiro, which I thought was quite justified for him attacking him twice. Yeah. And the fact that he understands how he feels because he used to be that way. So yeah. And if I would point out any film being weak that was basically okay, I would say it was probably the it could have been the third film in a way, but I think I pointed more a little bit toward the first film because the first one was a bit bizarre, but at least they knew what they were doing when it came to the first one because Parrot was expert at making good films. Uh, I know for a fact that all the villains in the films are original, and trying to place them at some point during the anime or at least in a manga is a bit head scratching. In the case of the last film, it's kind of taking place during the period of time before Ichigo lost his powers. I would say between seasons 14 and 15. It's just a theory that could be when its placement is. Yeah. As the first three films, sometime during the Roncar arc stuff because, well, you can maybe set it. It just depends on exactly when it's set because it the placement of the first three films is head scratching at best. But these films overall are really, really good. The plots are actually really original, though the whole thing of the first film basically trying to merge the precipice world, the Soul Society, and the world of living together is one of the most odd concepts for a plot. The second film is simply just a revenge plot. The third film is simply the whole thing of characters suffering from amnesia because people wipe. At least there's a reason for it because they wiped them every memories of Rukia. Though in the case of Captain Squad 12, he had the same thing happen to him, but excuse me. But the thing is, people remember who he is, despite the fact he doesn't know everybody else is. And the reason why that is because, well, it's explained in the movie that he actually backed up every single memory he's had over the years, so people remember him despite the fact he not. So it was kind of basically, it didn't exactly work for him, but it apparently worked for Rukia. And because of Ichigo interacted with Rukia a lot, so if I forgot, heck, Reggie forgot he had a Bankai. Basically, it took his manifestation, his which is Zayamara, which is basically just a monkey and a snake. Though for some reason in the Zanpakuto arc, basically they made it into a little boy and a hot and a woman with fur, which I thought was quite funny. Yeah, and Heineko being sort of like Rukia, basically being sort of kind of well girly and Momo's being sort of like her. A lot of the Zanpakuto, basically, their personalities were similar to that of themselves. I would say the one that kind of, well, wasn't was, I would say of all of them, was probably Zenbu Zakura. Yeah, he's nothing like Byakuya at all. Though he's a bit cold and, like, though the thing is, the manifestation for him is quite bizarre. It's basically a guy in samurai armor with a mask. I'm like, seriously? And I'm trying to think. I can't remember what Rukia's her sword's name is, but it's kind of like her, but with white skin. Yeah, it kind of seems like one of those celestial maidens you might see in like pictures in Japanese lore. But at least it's something that possibly people may have seen in Japanese paintings. Some of them are just like weird. The ones that never got a chance to see what their manifestation was. I mean, the one they revealed what it was. So it wasn't in the anime, but the manga. Um, Kapachi is saying Yawachi, I think her name is. Yeah, she's actually the manifestation of Zabaki's Zanpakuto, which is basically a weird looking sword with basically where it's got like a weird looking handle and like a kind of like a it kind of looks like a jigsaw sword where it has like teeth on both sides of it. And of the two voice actors who voiced them, I like the first one better because the second one was much more like much more crazier than he was um, than the original was. Though the only reason I changed because the original actor retired. It's kind of the same thing with Keith's They changed his actor for some reason. But overall, this was this was really good anime. Okay, stay tuned for my anime special where I talk about the final arc of the manga because, well, nothing really much else to say about the actual other stuff related to Bleach. Because, well, the manga is similar to the anime. So I will hear you all in my next part. This is the last of the parts, and the next thing you see for this Bleach interview will be a special where we talk about the final arc of the manga and my problems with it. Okay? But until then, I will hear you there. Bye.